I'm back. Sorry, part three. And I promise I'm going to try and go fast, but not as fast. Not so fast that you don't understand. So you should be seeing this. And then the one that we did, we already wrote factoring up here on the top. So that should already be done. But now if you'll go ahead and fold your paper over, you should see something like this. Should see something like this. And this is the main part of it because it says part four and we're finding solutions. I'm sorry, finding solutions where they're located, not just how many solutions. We're looking for the location of the solutions, just like we did with the quadratic formula, except that this one, factoring, will help us find the solutions a little bit faster, which I think you're going to like. Carlos, are you with me? Are you paying attention? Mark? I know you guys. Amy, Karen, Natalia, you guys all, I know you're paying attention and let's follow along. I know some of you guys probably already get it, but this is the main part that you need to do. Oh my gosh, I'm going to choke. I'm going to take a little drink of water. So on the top, you can already guess that the first part says solve using factoring. So go ahead and write the word factoring. Write the word factoring. And what we're going to do is I'm going to jump back and forth and we're going to actually graph this, because what I'd like you to do is follow the directions. And if you will graph the term that is the function, the quadratic equation that is in front of you. So I'm going to switch over to my graphing screen. See if I can get there. Go ahead and graph it on your calculator using the scratch pad. If you'll graph it on the calculator using the scratch pad. Let me see if I can find it. Oh no, that's not it. Where is my calculator? Oh, there it is. I see it. Let me see if I can hide this. And let's get back to my calculator. It should be ready to go. If you'll go ahead and graph x squared. So I'm going to go ahead and click x squared. X squared plus 3x plus 2. X squared plus 3x plus 2, you should see something like this. At this point, what I'd like us to do is figure out the solutions. Just by looking at them, we can see the graph here, but we can also see where they cross. And I believe one crosses at -2 and the other crosses at -1. If I'm not mistaken, would you guys see the same thing that I'm looking at? And that's really easy because you can always find solutions just from looking at the graph. But what we want to do is use the factoring method to find our solutions. Now, don't get too excited because I think some of you are going to like it and you guys are going to say, why didn't you show me this at the beginning? Because I already know how you guys are. We always operate the same. So let's go ahead and do this. We found, after we graphed it, that one of the solutions was at -1, 0, and the other solution was at -2, 0. But what we want to do is we want to know how we can factor it. Now, you can use the quadratic formula and plug it in and it'll work. But for time's sake, I don't know if I really want to do it and do the whole long method for it. But if you wanted to double check, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to plug in the quadratic formula. But there's one thing before I do that. One thing before I even start. What does it say up here? It says there's a star. It said set equations equal to what? Equal to 0. Everything needs to be equal to 0. So before I can even start with this one, I should have had it equal to 0. And then I should have said x squared plus 3x plus 2. And now I can start to even solve it. But with graphing, you don't have to set it equal to 0, only when you're going to solve it by hand. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and solve that quadratic formula one by hand. And I want you to see that it's going to be the same thing as if we factor. I'm going to try and do this pretty quick. And due to time's sake, I'm going to go fast and I'm not going to wait for the calculator part. So you do not have to copy this. I'm just going to show you real quick what it is. So on the quadratic formula, you should have, you know what, let me fold this over so that it doesn't bleed onto my original. So on the quadratic formula, if you were solving this with the quadratic formula, you would have x equals -b plus or minus the square roots of b squared minus 4 times AC, which would give us 1 times 2, all divided by 2 times 1. Now, like I said, you don't have to write this because you already know how to do it. But what I'm trying to show you is that what we're going to do is a shortcut. But it doesn't work for everything. Quadratic formula does. So this one is going to be -3 plus or minus. That's going to give us 3 squared is 9. So I'm going to write that over here. So that's 9. So the square root of 9. And then -4 times 2 is going to be -8. So the square root of 9 minus 8 is the square root of 1. So the square root of 1 is 1, all divided by 2. And I'm going to do this fast. -3 plus 1 is a -2. -2 divided by 2 should give you -1. I told you it was going to go fast. And let's do the bottom part. A -3 minus 1 should give you a -4. And -4 divided by 2 gives you a -2. So that verifies that, yes, one solution is at -1 and one solution is at -2. But that took me like 2 minutes. I can do it faster than that by factoring. However, not everything is factorable. So let's try it by factoring. So let's go ahead and factor. So what we're going to do is, in order to factor, again, you need it set equal to 0. And you're going to rewrite your equation over here, x squared plus 3x plus 2. So now what we're going to do is just factor it. Let's factor it into two binomials. So you're going to break this down into 2. What are the two factors of 2? 1 and 2. So 1 times 2 gives us 2, and since they're the only ones, I bet you if you add them together, it gives us a 3. And sure enough, there it is. 1 plus 2 is 3. So now if we factor it, we have x and x, and we're using the factors of a 1 and a 2. So a 1 goes here and a 2 goes here. And they're all positives. So that means this is going to be a positive and this is going to be a positive. But we're not done, because notice that we have the right numbers compared to our solutions, but we do not have the right signs. And we did it correctly, but there's one thing that you have to remember. You have to solve. So when you solve, you have to figure out what x is. So you're going to do 0 equals x plus 1. And 0 also equals x plus 2. So now you're going to solve it and move whatever you do to one side, you do to the other side. So subtract 1, subtract 1. You end up with -1 is equal to x, and -2 on both sides would give you -2 is equal to x. Now we have created our two solutions, and they match the same solutions that we got with the graph. What do you think? I think factoring is kind of cool. If it's factorable, not everything is factorable. So let's try one more before I cut it out and I let you guys go for it. You know how to factor. The only new part is the solutions. So remember, I'm going to do 2 of them with you and then you're on your own. So if you'll take your notes in this bottom little section right here that we haven't written in, if you'll take your notes and let's try one. So I'm going to just block it off here so we don't get it mixed up. So the first equation we're going to do is y equals x squared plus 3x minus 4. We can't solve it until it's set equal to 0. So we got to put it equal to 0 first, and then we can start factoring it. So now we can go x squared plus 3x minus 4. What are the factors of 4? And I'm going to shortcut this video a little bit faster because I'm going to run out of time. So we're going to use factors that will give us a +3, and that is going to be a -1 and +4. So -1 and +4 will add up to a +3. So I'm going to go ahead and use 0 equals my two binomials, x minus 1, because the 1 is negative, and x plus 4. And you can already tell, I bet you could figure out that all we really have to do is change your factors to the opposites. So this one inside the parentheses as a binomial was a +1. When your answer came out, it was a -1. This one was a +2, so your answer is the opposite and it's a -2 because you're moving it from one side to the other. So you have to do the inverse operation. Same thing goes for this one. So on this one, when you solve, you add 1 to both sides.